A Corp Media has created a place to talk about politics in a way that promotes civil discourse with truth and respect. This is In the Arena. I'm Barry Aycock, your host, and today we have the opportunity to sit down with my good friend, Chief of Police Joey Higgerson, candidate for Sheriff of New Madrid County. Joey, welcome to In the Arena.
Thank you, Barry. Good to be here.
My pleasure having you today. Joey, we've known each other for a long time. I know your family, but tell us a little bit about where you're from and your family.
Yes, sir. I'm from New Madrid. I lived there all my life. I graduated from New Madrid County Central High School. My wife, Jamie, and I, we've been together since high school. We've got 2 kids. My son is a junior in high school. My daughter is in 8th grade. We've lived in New Madrid just about all of our lives, except for a short time when I was working in Sikeston. I've been in law enforcement 20 years, and I've been the Chief of Police in New Madrid for 10 years.
What does the New Madrid community mean to you? You're part of the thread of that community. What does it mean to you personally?
Sure. You know, the strength of local law enforcement is someone that is a member of the community and that people trust and that people know that they can go to. So really, in my last 10 years as the chief in New Madrid, I've really strived to be a part of the community, not only me, but my officers in every way. And I think it really helps the public trust their police department a lot more. What was your passion,
and how long have you been in law enforcement? What made you go into law enforcement?
So, you know, law enforcement is one of those things that a lot of times they come from that background. There are people in their family that are in law enforcement. For me, that was not the case. There was nobody in my family had been in law enforcement, at least my immediate family. I was a 21-year-old kid working on the farm and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I went to the police academy kind of on a whim, and really after that it took off. I started at Sikeston DPS shortly after I got out of the police academy. I was there for a few years. In 2013, I ended up at New Madrid Police Department, back to my hometown, and ran for chief in 2014. It's a unique scenario in Southeast Missouri. We still have some elected police chiefs. So I'm in the middle of my 3rd term now as the police chief, and I really take pride in running a professional, efficient police department and giving people in New Madrid service that they deserve to have.
How long have you been the chief of police at New Madrid?
So I've been the chief for 10 years now.
So you've ran 3 campaigns in for chief of police?
Yes, sir.
How's that different than running a county-wide campaign?
You know, I've run 3 campaigns, like you mentioned, for city police chief. Fortunately, up to this point, I've never been opposed. And even still, I worked very hard in those elections everyone knew me because I was from there, but I needed them to know me then as an adult, you know, as a career police officer rather than a kid from a local kid. And so I really worked in the first election to do that, and then it became easier after that because I had proven myself every 4 years. Every time a new term came up, I was much more confident. I think the people have more confidence in me. You know, it differs from a county election in that obviously there's a lot more ground to cover, and there's a big difference in the population of Sikeston versus the population of Gideon, or the population of Risco versus New Madrid. A lot of these places have their own schools, they have their own communities, so you've really got to work hard and get into those places and make a lot of good contacts and let those people trust you just like the people in your hometown.
Joey, how has policing law enforcement evolved since you started 20 years ago?
You know, I don't think 20 years ago anyone in law enforcement at that time could really predict where we were going to go. There have been so many things that have happened in that time, you know, whether it be Ferguson in 2014, things in Minneapolis and cities all over the country in that time, defund the police movements. There have been a lot of things that have gone on, and really it has changed policing dramatically. Having said that, and one thing I said to a member of the public before, I said once this all is over, it will make the cream rise to the top, and only the best of the best will be left. And I think it really is helping to weed out the people in our profession that don't belong here. And I use that word intentionally. I gave a speech at a scholarship banquet last night, and I said from the time I got in law enforcement to now, it went from a job to a profession, and we need professionals to do the job.
That's a really good point. The cream is rising to the top now. So, Joey, has it always been your goal to be New Madrid County Sheriff? What made you get over the hump here and say, this is my time to run?
You know, when I started in law enforcement, like I said, it was kind of on a whim because I needed something. I needed a career path. I knew just simply working on the farm as I was at that time wasn't really what I wanted to do as a career. That was a job. I needed a career. So I got into it. I really didn't early on think of being the New Madrid County Sheriff. That had been I didn't think of being the police chief. You know, that's kind of a lofty goal. But as I went through my career, and especially as I came back to New Madrid, and luckily the people there, again, just knowing me for my whole life, they had a lot of trust in me. And after the first 4 years and the second 4 years, they really, really had a lot of faith in me. And I started to see that. And once I saw how much faith people had in me and how much they relied on me, that really gave me the confidence to say, the sheriff's department, the sheriff in the county, while he's not necessarily he's not the employer for all the city police departments, things like that. The sheriff really sets the tone for what law enforcement is going to be like in the county. And in our county, I want what we have in our city. I want professional, efficient police departments and sheriff's departments. So I think it's very important for me that once I realized I had developed everything I could at the city of New Madrid, to take that to the county level.
You know, Joey, New Madrid County has a long history of sheriffs. I mean, there have been some colorful figures in the past. Could you share some of that history with us? I know I've heard Cowboy Ramsey from Parma.
You know, I've had those conversations with other, on top of an interest in law enforcement. Obviously, I've got an interest in history, and I'm from New Madrid County. My family's lived here for 150 years, so I've heard those stories forever about, and what I call the old cowboy sheriffs. And you had Cowboy Ramsey and Walter Ivey and Jake Rohn, and Jake Rohn, he's still around, a very good friend of mine, and we talk on a regular basis. And that's what I say. A sheriff's office, a sheriff is a very unique figure as compared to other quote unquote politicians, because what people want in a sheriff, they want someone who's confident, they want someone who they can trust is going to get the job done. And I think those guys, people like Jake Rohn, people had confidence in them to get the job done, and that's what they want here. And I think that's what people in the city of New Madrid, I think that's how they see me. They see me as someone that, above all else, I'll take their call and I'll get the job done. And I think that's what the people in New Madrid County want.
And Joey, in general, those elections have made lifetime appointments for Cowboy Ramsey was there for a long time. Walter Ivey was there for a long time. Jake Rohn was there for a long time.
Sure.
Terry Stevens is there for a long time. So this is a big commitment for your life here to the citizens of New Madrid County.
Sure, and I'm at the right stage in my life. I'm 41 years old. And I've really set the stage for this. And I told someone else, I said, I knew in my life, in my professional career, I was setting the stage for something. After I was in police work for a few years, I went back and I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and thinking I'm working towards something. And then once that really started to take shape, that was the office where I could use what I know most efficiently, it became clear that's what it needed to be.
Well, Joey, it takes a lot of courage to put your name on the ballot. Has your life changed any? Talking to your wife, your kids, like, we're going to do this? Has your life changed any since you made that big decision?
One thing I'll say about my family is I'm a family man above all else. And what we do, we go together. And I had the former sheriff, Terry Stevens, he told me, he said, he was telling my wife, he said, you're going to have to be there with him every step of the way. And I said, the good thing about her is she's one step ahead of me usually. She's dragging me along. So I would not be here without her, that's for sure. And my kids are the same. They know where we go as a family. And they're glad to do it,
I didn't want to bring this up, but she's definitely the boss of the family.
There's no doubt. There is no doubt.
Joey, New Madrid County has its share of challenges, not unique to any other county, but what's the crime like in New Madrid County? What challenges will you have on the first day? New
Madrid County overall, and again, I've lived there my whole life, so I'm seeing it as a landscape. And I've told people while I'm out campaigning, I said, even I always use 20 years ago. I graduated from high school in 2001, so 23 years ago. So in that 20-year time frame, I don't know that any of us could really have a picture where Lilburn, Parma, Marston, what these towns would be like. 20 years ago, a lot of these towns were still thriving. They had their own schools, communities. So now the sheriff is limited in what he can do there. Those are obviously, there's money that plays into that, business, things like that. But having said that, there's no reason for those places to have the levels of crime that they have now. And we need a sheriff that is proactive, that people trust, and is going to listen to their needs and get in there and take care of business, because those places don't have to be that way. There's a complete absence of law enforcement there now, and it doesn't have to be that way. And just putting forth some effort is going to completely change the landscape there.
Well, most people would view the sheriff as more of an administrative role, but I feel like you're going to be more hands-on.
Well, I'll tell you, Barry, one thing I said, I was speaking to a group of people in New Madrid, and I said, as I stand here, I'm looking across this crowd. I said, I bet I can pick out 30 names of people that in the last 10 years, they've called me directly. They don't call call 911. They don't call the police station. They call me. And I said, I would challenge any of you to say that I didn't answer your call or call you back and then take whatever action I could. And I said, I would really challenge any public official anywhere in Southeast Missouri to say they're more accessible or more responsive to the people they serve. And that's one thing about me. I've got, if I have many flaws, just like any human, but I have a very, very strong work ethic, and I lead my people by example, always.
So I want to get back to the crime in New Madrid County. So what are some top issues in New Madrid County on crime?
You know, New Madrid County is not immune from any problem. The same problems that everywhere in the Boot Hill faces. Obviously, drugs are a big issue. You know, but New Madrid County especially, and it's not budget related. I think there's been some talk that it may be because of budget cuts or things like that. It's purely procedural. It's purely the way that we've been going about doing business in the county. And with these places, as I said before, with a complete absence of law enforcement, that's just not going to work. And those are the things that I think people, as I'm out walking in these towns and I'm talking to people in places like Gideon and Parma and Lilburn. And what I hear from them is we just never see anybody. We never see anybody. And I think that's just unacceptable. A small effort is going to go a long way in those places.
What is the right amount of deputies for New Madrid County?
You know, the number is, it all varies on what type of jobs you want done from your people. And I can tell you as a leader for me, especially, and I'll say this, I'm in a unique situation as compared to probably any other sheriff's race in Southeast Missouri, because other than incumbent sheriffs, I can say this is my organization and this is how I've done business. And there's no other police chiefs that are running in Southeast Missouri. So what I do for my organization is, the backbone of that is patrol. It's uniformed deputies. They're in a Class A uniform. They're in marked patrol cars that are taking calls. They're dealing with people on a daily basis. That's got to be the backbone for any department. Everything else, and I mean everything else, whether that's investigations, whether that's anything extra, that's purely off to the side of patrol. And that's what people need, and that's what they want to see. They want to see uniformed police officers, uniformed deputies out taking care of their problems.
Because it is truly public service. The taxpayer is the customer.
Absolutely, and I tell people that all the time, and I tell other public officials, especially in New Madrid, I say there's nobody here that has more face-to-face contact with voters and taxpayers here than I do. I see them every single day, and nothing to me, and you've known me a long time, nothing to me is more important than my image and how I portray myself and what people think about me. And I've had police officers that I've hired before and come in and say to me, well, you know, I don't care what people think about me. And I tell them, you're in the wrong business, because that's not how we act. The people want to have confidence in the people that they're paying to do the job, and that's what we're there for.
Well, Joe, it has been a hot button issue in New Madrid County for the last 5 years or so, but the jail got shut down 5 or so years ago. It's off and on a hot button issue.
Sure.
It's not something we think about every day, but New Madrid County doesn't have a jail. Is it a vision of yours to have a jail? Is it cost effective to have a jail? Is it a liability to have a jail? So what's your stance on that?
So I'll answer the first two parts of that in the beginning is, so number one, I haven't seen behind the scenes to see the numbers of what the actual cost today would be to run a jail and the cost of what New Madrid County is spending on housing prisoners elsewhere. So I couldn't really make a judgment call on that without seeing the numbers. However, I will tell you it is a huge liability, and any sheriff in Southeast Missouri, or probably in Missouri as a whole, will tell you that is by far their biggest liability is the jail. Now, as far as do we need one in New Madrid County, I can say that there are definite pros and cons to having the jail. One of the pros is just the convenience of your people and how long we're putting them on the road, taking prisoners to other places. You know, so you'd have to look at that, whether it's the most efficient use of their time. You also have to look at how it will actually affect crime rates in New Madrid County. I would say, without a doubt, there are people in the past that used to go to jail that don't now, simply because of the logistical hurdles on getting them there.
What looks like to me it's not cost effective, and it's maybe a little bit of a prestige thing, but how inconvenient is it?
You know, I think there is some inconvenience there. Having said that, there are ways to work around that. There are ways to dedicate people strictly to those jobs and not use your commissioned deputies to transport prisoners. That doesn't require a commissioned deputy to do that job. I haven't seen the numbers myself, but there are definitely, I'm always a fan of outside the box thinking, and I think if that saves taxpayers of New Madrid County a substantial amount of money, I think it's definitely something that needs to be looked at.
Do the taxpayers care whether we have a jail or not?
Taxpayers definitely care, and as I'm out campaigning, I'm talking to people. Like you said in the beginning, that's a hot button issue, and I get that a lot. So I think the taxpayers, the main thing is they need to be informed. They need to be informed of the cost of both options, the liability of both options, and our county commissioners and take that and do what's best. And we're lucky we've got a good group of commissioners now. They're very prudent with the money, the tax money, and they understand that tax money comes in. That's not their money. That's money that belongs to the citizens of New Madrid County. So I think they're going to do whatever's best.
Joey, on day one, what does your administration look like when you take office? What does the Sheriff's Department look like? What's your vision and goals for New Madrid County?
You know, as I take over on day one, there's going to be a long time between August 6th, which is the election date, and January 1st. So anybody that knows me knows that I'm a big planner, that I like to be prepared. And so when I walk through the door on January 1st, there's no doubt I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to have done everything I can to get myself ready for the task at hand. You know, I think there needs to be some serious accountability there, and we need to start from the ground up. We need to see accountability of all the equipment, of all the personnel, and really, you know, I hate to say it, but I'm going to have to come in with some new personnel. I'm sure there are always turnover in sheriff's races. After that, there's always some personnel turnover, and I'll be honest, I don't know that we'll fix the problem we have now, which is the image of the New Madrid County Sheriff's Department. I think there's an image issue there. I don't know that we'll do that without bringing in some new people, but there's got to be, the first thing I'm going to do when I go in is set the standard for the people who are there and expect them to meet it. And I don't think you can really efficiently run a police department or sheriff's department without a solid set of rules, setting a standard, and making sure that they meet it. That's the key to having good, efficient employees.
That is a good point, because you're going to have to run it like a business, but it does require some public relations. A big part of the Sheriff's Department is public relations, whether they look good or bad.
That's exactly right. You know, police officers have a thing, when you go to the police academy, they have what's called command presence. And that's how you present yourself to people in the public, and how your appearance is going to affect whether they listen to you or don't listen to you. And efficient, professional police officer who's dressed in a uniform with everything on that he should have, who's talking clearly to people, they're going to get a lot more out of the public than someone who's sloppily dressed, who hasn't shaved, who hasn't. That's the reality of it. And I think, again, that's what the people in New Madrid County want. They want a professional service. They're paying tax money for it. They want a professional service. And that's very high on my priority list.
Well, Joey, it's great to have you today. My good friend Joey Higgerson, thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Barry, for having me.
I'm going to give you the last word.
Again, my name is Joey Higgerson. I'm running for sheriff in New Madrid County. I'll be on the Republican ballot on August 6th. I'm striving for a efficient, professional sheriff's department in New Madrid County that answers to its citizens. So if you want change on August 6th, I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you for watching In the Arena with my good friend Joey Higgerson today.
Barry, thank you for having me.
Thank you.